the obligatory brew again. Okay, continuing with the series about series, today is the work of Barry Eisler. And Barry's first book, which was then named Rainfall, opens with his main character, John Rain, and he's following a target along a street in Shibuya in Tokyo, and then into Shibuya station, and then onto the subway train. And then he proceeds to kill the victim, the target, in a most imaginative and unique way. And his specialty, you find out, is as an assassin, is making kills that look accidental. Now, when I first read that, I thought, well, that would be difficult, because I was very familiar with the location. I used to take that train from Shibuya to Yoyogi every day. And as a gaijin, as a foreigner, you'd stand out like a sore thumb in Japan. But John Rain, it turns out, is half Japanese, and he can pass for Japanese, and he speaks the language fluently. So that covers that side of it. So that book goes on to describe his activities in Japan, and some of the subsequent books were also based in Japan. And he gets the atmosphere of Japan. John Rain likes to frequent out of the way coffee bars and jazz clubs, and he gets his work from the murky world of Japanese politics. He's got a good ally who is a senior police officer, and Barry really does construct the atmosphere of Japan very, very well. And John Rain trains in the Kodokan in judo, and that's described very eloquently as well. So that side of it, the hard skills and so on, and the tradecraft. One of the things about John Rain is that marks him out is he's obsessive about tradecraft and his personal security, and he takes very, very painstaking steps in all the books to secure that, and it's very well done. Barry was a member of a forum, and he asked for input on the techniques, tactics, weapons, combatives, and so on. And Southnork, Craig Douglas, myself, and a couple of others supplied him with some input, and he very nicely acknowledged this in one of the books. Later books went to other countries, Thailand and United States and so on, and the plots changed to reflect the different kind of activities there. And a lot of the ones are based on the industrial military complex and corruption and really dark dealings within that world. Barry had a background in the CIA, and he was also a black belt in judo, and he trained in Kodokan. So the books also feature some other characters that become part of John Rain's network. There's Dox, who was a former US Marine sniper, Delilah, who worked for Hamasad, and as a sort of female honey trap. Trevin and Larison, who come in later, who both work for a very specialized part of JSOC. And then there's another character comes in, which I'll talk about just now. As I say, the plots in the later books go into dirty dealings within the American government and so on, which I found quite reasonable, because, you know, if you look at some of the things that have gone on in the Obama administration, particularly Fast and Furious, and that, you could well say they were up to no good. One of the books that and Barry also wrote some standalone books, but one of the books, God's Eye View, strained my suspension of disbelief a bit when the director of the NSA has an assassin sitting in his outer office waiting to kill at a moment's notice, which I found a bit hard to take. But then, okay, it's a fictional world, and that's fine. And the other thing which I kind of have to mention, I suppose, is John Rain and his compadres wreak havoc against the enemies that are sent against him by the industrial, military, political complex, who are usually contractors supplied by companies which seem to resemble Blackwater, although that's obviously never named. It's always some sort of similar type of name. And these guys who have fleets of black Suburbans deploy within the continent of the United States with automatic weapons and even an attack helicopter in one. And then when they're all killed by the good guys, there's never any follow-up. And now, in reality, these guys work for a large corporation. Many of them would know each other. Their families would all go to barbecues and stuff together. And suddenly they're all killed on a job within the United States and nothing's said in the most litigious society on earth. As again, that strained my credulity a little bit. Okay, and I did want to mention in one of the books, there's a scene set in Thailand where John Rain gets into a fight, and at the time of writing, it was, I would have said, definitely the best description of close quarter combat that I'd read up till then in a thriller. It was really well done on a mental and technical side. And it's been eclipsed since by Marcus's With a Vengeance, the CQB scenes in that. But it certainly still stands as remarkable writing. As I mentioned, there's another character comes into the later books, and she actually starts in a series of her own, and this is Livia Alone. And the first of the Livia books was pretty hard going because it features human trafficking, child sexual exploitation, and which is a massive problem in the United States, and one that's not really addressed sufficiently by law enforcement. And Barry, is raising awareness of this by this book, but it's still unpleasant reading. And Livia Alone is a female operator. She's a police officer, but she's got an array of very specific and alarming skills. And it's pretty difficult to come up with a convincing female operator. Some try and succeed. For example, Modesty Blaze. And Brad Taylor has done it in his task force books with Jennifer and Shoshona. They're very convincing. But there's not that many that pull it off. And Barry has pulled it off with Livia Alone. It described very, very well. And she carries a particular knife. It's described in the books, and she uses it to great effect. And there is a merging in two of the books where she comes into Rain's network, and they work together. And they're two of the best books, two of the more recent, and two of the best books. I really, really enjoy them. And I hope there's more Livia Alone books because she is a remarkable creation. So to wrap up, I enjoyed the first books with the Japanese setting, particularly because of my association with Japan. But I also enjoyed all the others, or most of the others, and particularly the later ones with Livia Alone. And I think they really have, in some ways, he's perfected his craft in the later books. tells a really good story. And I do recommend them very, very highly. They particularly if you're interested in martial arts and that kind of thing. They're thrillers, and what Barry does also, he acknowledges a whole group of people that he has advising him, from doctors to martial artists to people advising of female fashion. And he also puts a lot of links and references to news stories to kind of validate his thesis on some of the corruption that's going on. Great books, and really, really deserve your attention.